Can't write a better spy novel. 10 people living amongst us arrested as part of a Russian spy ring straight out of the Cold War. Fox News contributor Monica Crowley and a ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Pete Hoekstra, join us. Representative, thank you very much. When I heard the story, I said, get on the phone with Mr. Hoekstra, find out if he's available. Set this up for us, sir. How did we find out? Who was it? Being that your committee oversees the CIA and the FBI, which body found it, and how did they go about doing that, sir?
Well, I can't get into the details as to exactly how we found these folks, but I think you can rest assured that this was probably a group of people that we had under surveillance for an extended period of time. As we went through this process, or as law enforcement, as the intelligence community was going through this process, they thought that now was the time to take this, really what you would now call a sleeper cell. It was time to take this sleeper cell down, to expose them and bring them under the U.S. law.
And Representative, there were 10 people arrested in the New York area. I think there was 11th arrested in Cyprus, sir. The question is, how many more are there? Are we talking hundreds? Are we talking more than that?
Oh, I think it's very easy to say that if you take the efforts by the Russians, you take the efforts by the Chinese government, by the Iranians, you are probably talking in the hundreds of people who are involved in these kinds of activities, because you're looking at economic espionage, you are looking at industrial espionage, and you're also looking at military or intelligence espionage. It is still very much a tactic that is used by the Russians, Chinese, and Iranians to get information from us that can help them. I mean, I've seen cases where they have targeted our research universities, where they have stolen information from our research universities, and they have patented this stuff before we've ever found out about it, and before we could ever take a patent. It is very much a part of American life. It is part of the world of espionage today, right, that is ongoing and continues to be a threat to the United States.
I want to bring in Monica. Monica, what are we doing wrong? Is this any different? Is Obama perceived as weak on espionage?
I think what we've done wrong is prematurely change our perceptions about the Russians. This case reminds us, I mean, this case is so 20th century, right? It's so James Bond, and it's so Cold War. And what we need to remind ourselves of is that essentially the Cold War has never really ended. The Russians remain incredibly competitive with the United States and with the West, economically, politically, culturally, and yes, militarily. And of course, enemies spy on each other all the time. Friends spy on one another all the time. We see some of these situations break out between the United States and Israel, for example, and other allies of ours. We all are trying to gain each other's secrets, but that's why it's important to remember that the Russians remain behind pretty much every state-based threat that the United States faces today, whether it be Iran or Syria or Venezuela. And this administration has bent over backwards to try to reset relations with Moscow to the point where they actually set aside a missile defense program to be set in Poland and the Czech Republic so as not to offend the Russians. Now we know, and this case actually was a very good reminder, I think, both for the administration and for the American people, that Russia, by and large, still remains an enemy of the United States.
Representative, you mentioned economic reasons. What were the reasons? Do we know, or are you allowed to tell us? Are you able to tell us? What was the motive behind these 11 or whatever spies, this cell?
Well, I believe that at least the initial indications are that it was economic espionage, but, you know, that can go into a whole range of different areas, and Monica's absolutely right. I mean, the Russians have already thrown back in our face that, you know, well, we hope that this doesn't set back, you know, Russian and U.S. relations, because, you know, President Obama decided to reset the relationships between Russia and the United States. It's interesting, yeah, President Obama has decided to reset. There's no mention at all whether Russia has reset their relationship with the United States. I think they are as aggressive as going after us as what they ever have been. But let's not forget the Iranians, and let's not forget the Chinese. They're doing exactly the same thing. America can't let it down its guard. And these countries now are using tools that they never used before. You know, they're launching cyber attacks against us to get information, because they see this as a way that they can weaken the United States and strengthen themselves.
Right. Monica, what about it? Is Russia the biggest threat, or is Iran, or is China, or all of the above?
We have a whole range of different kinds of threats. Some are state-based, whether it's Russia, China economically and militarily, Iran obviously with a nuclear weapon, and then of course you have non-state actors like Al-Qaeda, Taliban, other groups that are seeking to act against the United States in non-traditional, asymmetrical kind of terrorist ways. But I think that we ought not to be naive about the Russians. The Russians may no longer be a superpower of the kind they were during the Cold War, but they still have a heck of a lot of nuclear weapons. They're extremely competitive with the United States. And if there is a perception, Eric, that the American commander-in-chief, the American president is weak, then they will exploit every opportunity, including spy rings like this, to try to run circles around the United States and our allies. I think there is a growing consensus among our enemies and our allies alike that the United States is increasingly weak, and that is very dangerous, not just for us, but for the world.
Representative, about a minute left, maybe a little bit less. Give us a sense, give us some security here, give us some, I don't know, hope. Do we have our own spies in Russia, in China, in Iran doing the same thing? I got my fingers crossed, and I hope it's a yes.
Well, we're not going to get exactly what our specifics are, but, we've got a very vigorous activity against our enemies, especially in the area of national security, to make sure that we keep America safe. Absolutely.
And, Monica, are we doing that? Are we getting that done? Are we winning the spy war with these countries?
Well, I don't know what the status is right now. I would hope that we have the kinds of human intelligence forces that we need on the ground in Iran, in North Korea, in Russia, in China. That I don't know, because one of the things that was exposed after Iraq and even now in Afghanistan, and even in the debate over how far along the Iranian regime is with regard to a nuclear weapon, it seems that the human intelligence, and Congressman Hoekstra can speak to this more than I can, human intelligence, we've been trying to build it up over the years, but I'm not quite sure we're at 100% yet.
Congressman, real quick, last word.
I can speak to it, but I can't speak to it on the air.
Well, thank you. I think we're all thankful that you're not gonna out our spy activities. Thank you very much, both of you, Monica Crowley, awesome, and Representative Hoekstra. Thanks a lot. All right.